Welcome to the Most High Show, a show about recovery, spirituality, and the 12 steps. Produced, hosted, and posted by people in recovery who've been given strength and hope and want to share it with you. If you or someone you love is suffering, we want you to know you are not alone. This is the Most High Show. All right. Hey, what's up? My name is Christian. This is the Most High Show. And today I have the pleasure of sitting with my man, Kirk, who I pulled your bio off the internet.
Oh, watch out now.
You are an entrepreneur. You have established and acquired and managed many successful businesses: real estate, dog breeding, auto services. And beyond that, his family and his faith, his true passion in his life is helping others, especially men struggling with addiction. And it's really cool to be able to sit here with you here in the Vision Warriors compound. And before we get too much into your story, can you just tell us a little bit about Vision Warriors and where this room we're in right now?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, Vision Warriors, to really sit through my whole journey in recovery, I saw a big opportunity or a big gaping hole, whichever way you want to look at it, just in the what's after a treatment program, the transition. And so Vision Warriors is a faith-oriented community, so faith-based community that we focus in and dig in on accountability and transparency. So we provide residential housing for those that are seeking transition and to maintain sobriety. So the building that we're in is in our main campus in Southeast Cherokee County. And this is in the sanctuary meeting hall room here that can seat about 250, 300 in it. So nice. So I appreciate you being out here today. But on 7 acres, so it's a beautiful place. Yeah,
it is. It's awesome. I love coming up here. It's one of my favorite places to come. Now, can you just tell me a little bit? We're going to talk about step 10. We've been going through every one of the steps, and it's taken more than 12 weeks. Because that's what happens when a bunch of addicts try to do something. But we're going to talk about step 10. And before we get to talking about step 10, if you can give me just an overview, quick overview of what it is that got you to this point here today and why you're here talking about these steps.
Yeah, so, my journey started April 24th, 1995, in the Alpharetta group in downtown Alpharetta. And so I've been in and around the rooms for just over 23 years. And a little bit of it, I get criticized sometimes because I think we've softened up a little too much at times. And I came into rooms and man, it was right in your face. And the truth was the truth. So I'm a firm believer in my faith and my relationship with Christ without a doubt. But what I found are the 12 steps which helped me put that faith and that belief into action daily. So I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for AA. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my Savior. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the community of men that have helped carry me through the good, the bad, the ugly, all the success and all the failure. So it was simple. The old timers, when I walked in the rooms that day, they were like, hey man, just look for the similarities, not the differences. Right. Because there was lots of differences 23 years ago between me and the room. And the other thing was just sit there, shut up and listen. Yeah. And it was simple. They're like, hey, we'll give it to you if you want it, but you just have to give it away. So I've been trying to give it away every day. Yeah. So that's how we're here.
And so what's really cool to talk about step 10 was with somebody who has a long time.
I'm about 20 hours into today though.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well said. That's only someone with long-term sobriety would say something like that. So step 10 is that we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And the principle behind this would be a principle of honesty, perseverance, self-discipline, and integrity. So let's break that down. We continue to take a personal inventory. One of the notes I made is that it says a personal inventory. And is that distinct from a moral inventory?
It's it's not a personal inventory of my spouse or my kids. I'll start down that road pretty easy. It's easy to get someone else's inventory. To me, a personal inventory, I'm going to look at it maybe different than others. I want to look at my spiritual well-being. Where am I at? Where's the condition there? Where I am from my faith, where I'm at from my program. Just really looking down at every angle that I can. Yeah. And having some accountability in that, because man, I'm going to check. I'm a man. I got it. I'm right. And so I'm still, if I'm not truly honest with myself by being completely vulnerable and open with someone else, man, I think my personal inventory at times is still going to be shallow, right? If I don't have someone help me call down to a little bit more to depth. So I would say it's moral, spiritual, physical. For me, it's
all of it.
All of it.
Yeah. Well, and both of us are married, and I think our spouses are great mirrors for us, right? I mean, we know
sometimes.
Well, I know for me, when I'm like off, because I'll hear myself talking and I'll go, "Ooh, that's probably
that's not what I
should probably promptly admit that was wrong." Yeah, for sure.
And if I don't promptly admit it was wrong, I generally have a good reminder that what I just said was not right. Or hurt someone's feelings. So it's good walking through life with someone though where they understand that it's safe to share that message. And that's if you have a spouse, that's great to do that with, but you can also find it in a brother that you're going to walk through this with, that truly to be known by someone else, right?
Yeah. So Richard Rohr, one of my favorite authors, says, "You must step back from your compulsiveness and your attachment to yourself to be truly conscious." So he's kind of saying that behind this step 10 is this consciousness. We have to be conscious. And there's an interesting Buddhist philosophy that's like where most people walk through the day in a subconscious state of mind. We're just reacting. I got to get to work. Okay, I'm getting to work. Oh, this thing makes me mad. Okay, I'm going to go do this and then this and this. And we kind of go through this thing. But for those of us in recovery, we have to be very aware of our thoughts and emotions, because left unchecked, that could take us to a very, very destructive place. So what do you think about that concept of consciousness and how that plays out in this step 10 and in recovery?
Yeah, so I have a good friend of mine named Andy, and I've been in an intentional relationship with him for probably close to 15 years. Mm-hmm. And he has this deal called T3, right? And it's time to think. So to remove myself from everything and all my distractions, no phone, no work, anything, and put myself somewhere intentionally for whatever length of period of time you're comfortable with, right? Okay. I like a 24-hour block. Yeah. And get quiet and listen so that I can remove myself from the day-to-day, because man, I don't know about you, but I can get really busy, tied up in the email, the text, all the phone calls, everything I haven't done that I need to do. Right. And it's hard for me to remove myself from it. And so for me, I've had to be very intentional to create that space. And here lately, to be honest, right, I haven't had as much me time. I think you can be selfish and not be self-centered, right? Right. To be selfish for myself, to know that I need to get grounded, get centered, so that I can dig in and look down in and reflect on myself a little bit deeper, right? Otherwise it's easier to stay surface and say, okay, hey, well, I just want to fix this. I need to tell my daughter and go here with her, rather than to dig down to that next level. So I don't know what you do there, but I know I need a constant improvement to remove myself from it, to look objectively. Yeah. So,
for me, I think I need it more daily. And so I've started to meditate, right? And I've got some like guided meditations. And so in meditating, that's really helped, because once I quiet everything down, and then I kind of talk to my higher power and go, hey, what's happening? But if I'll often find myself, in the midst of that chaos going, whoa, like something doesn't feel right here. There's too much happening. And so I'll kind of get forced by the grace of God to stop and go outside. I guess it's the gift of having some anxiety that tells you, as soon as I'm feeling that thing puff up, I go, so I can't, and I'll know if I do it 2-3 days in a row and I don't have that time, the time of reflection. And it can be for a lot of people. I know a lot of people take a walk, and that's the thing. It just, they get outside, they take a walk, communing with nature, looking at the trees or whatever. That works for some people. And the thing is that, I was telling some guy the other day, is that you got to find what works for you, aside from drinking and drugging.
Right. I mean, because it's going to be different for you and I, to sit here and say, do these things and you're not going to drink. Do these things and you're not going to. Man, there's the underlying principles, underlying steps, but how you apply that
in your life
and how I apply it in mine are going to be a little different, right? And that's all right.
Yeah. So I'm going deep on this one, but I really like this saying. And I might have to read it twice. Consciousness is not the seen, but that which sees me seen. I'll do it again. Consciousness is not the seen, but that which sees me seen. Another way to say it would be an observing ego, a way to kind of like take an objective look. Or another way to say it would be take yourself out of it. Yeah. Get an objective view. So you're running businesses, you're doing a lot at a high level, right? With a high degree of accountability and intensity, right? So how do you manage that? Kind of to be able to say, whoa, I'm seeing myself kind of go, how do I get to this place where I need to acknowledge, first see, am I wrong? And as soon as I know I'm wrong, admitting it.
Yeah, so it's a great question when you pose it that way, and there's a couple of things. One, I'll start with the easiest thing.
Okay.
As an organization for Vision Warriors as a nonprofit, we're very clear on what it is that we want to do. We want to provide a faith-based community that's rooted in accountability and transparency for men that want a sober, clean environment to continue their journey, right? So we know who we are and what we're about. But then the phone rings and someone's like, hey man, I got some stuff, would you like it? And there was a sense of, I won't say obligation, but like duty is like, hey, this is a supporter that wants to give us this item.
Like a donation or something.
Donation. And so then we look, it's like last month, it's close to $1,500 in fuel alone, picking up donations that we haven't asked for, but we felt because the phone rang, we should do it. But at the end of the day, is it in our core of who we are, what we're doing, and to be comfortable enough to say, okay, hey, I'm sorry, we'd love to do that. If you'd like to make a donation to us, we can come and pick up that donation for you. So that's one thing. And then but being convicted enough into who we are and what we are to be able to make that decision, say, you know what, we're going to do something a little different than other nonprofits maybe on this. And we don't want to seem like we're better than, but it lets us be better at what we say we are. Yeah. Right. Now, where that gets blended is when ego and pride comes in. Yeah. Right. So let's put it into on a for-profit company. Yeah. And I'm fortunate, man. God's blessed me. I've got several that I have to juggle through. Now, when they intersect with nonprofit, it's like what I drive to a nonprofit meeting, or someone asks where you live, and it starts attacking ego on one side of guilt that I shouldn't have it. And on the other side is the ego, like I should have more, right? So it's like when you come down through there, man, it is a battle, a mental, emotional, and sometimes just spiritual battle, trying to stay centered in, okay, is this of God's will or Kirk's will? Is this getting me closer to what God's calling me to do and to serve and help more men, or is this pulling me further away? Yeah. And man, it's been hard. My wife and I are still talking through a lot of things, and we made, I started a real estate company and development company in 2002, and I carried it through all the downturn, everything through there. And then last year, October of last year, 15 years of running that company, we sold the company. Wow. And that's a shift, big shift. It's a big shift, and it was a great deal. I mean, it was a great opportunity. But yet again, there was, even though my identity wasn't in that organization, right? There is a sense of you that is dying. Something has to, for something to grow, something's dying. Yeah. And so, it's like, what's that reaction? And then the last 12 months, I've been running full steam in 2 or 3 different directions. And so, man, it's a constant.
Yeah.
That's a great topic.
Yeah.
And, just being transparent, being real, like, hey, it's like, I'm man enough to say, man, my ego and pride still gets in my way.
Still get in there. Yeah.
And, but just being willing to say, you know what, hey, we're going to stop doing that. And my dad always said this, I'll end it with this, is that growing up and always hearing it still to today, it's like, look, you not making a decision, like to not make that decision can cause, a catastrophic type event.
Right.
You can't correct.
Right.
Making the wrong decision is often easy to correct.
Yeah.
Like come back to, hey man, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. How do we work through this and move forward?
Yeah.
Versus not doing anything about it and it eroding away to where you can't. So, man, ego, pride, and that's a good one.
Well, you bring up a great point, which one of the notes I had here is there's no shame in order to admit you're wrong. You have to be able to sit in a place of not feeling the shame, because I think that's a big part of this. Is sometimes we do something wrong, and the first thing that hits us is this concept of shame, this idea. You get that negative. We all have a negative voice in our head, and it's telling us, well, now when that shame hits, it's really hard to promptly admit you're wrong. Yeah. It's really hard to take an objective view of your situation, because that shame starts clouding everything up. So you're right. I mean, to have that, you have to have this healthy, which is no coincidence why it's step 10. Right. This is later on down the road when you've kind of went through the wreckage of your past. You've gotten to this point where you're going, oh, it's okay to be me, and I have a connection with my higher power, and I think it's in that I found the most ability to be able to admit I'm wrong. Because I know that just because I may do something wrong doesn't mean that I am I'm wrong person, or I'm a bad person if I do something bad, right? And so I think that's huge, and I'm glad you called that out of it, because I feel like that's a big piece to the promptly, because it's those people who are really, really, I guess, whole or congruent, right? It's those of us who are there that you can see that willingness to go, oh wait, I did. I know a lot of pastors and preachers who just won't do it. Look, let's look at it. I haven't picked up a drug or a drink in over 23 years, but man, I've made plenty of mistakes. Right? I probably made plenty this week. If you don't believe me, here, let me give you my wife's phone number, call her, and like here's a list of 2 or 3 things that I could have done better if I had surrendered my will. And myself to the situation ahead rather than putting myself ahead of it. And so, man, it's hard, it's hard there, but it's easier, is I have the good fortune, I think, to speak to a lot of guys that are fresh, right? They may have 5-6 days clean. Right. They may have 30 days clean. They may have, 60, 90 days. They may have a year coming out of a long-term program, but their journey is beginning in this phase. Yeah. And guilt and shame, man, it just erodes away so much happiness and so much self-will and belief in self, right? And it puts self limitations on us. And that's the one thing I know where I'm grateful for over my journey is when I make a mistake now, which I've made plenty, right? And I'm still going to make plenty. Right. It doesn't cripple me down to pull up all the old guilt and all those things, because it's cleaner, right? It's still got stuff that you got to work on all the time, but it's not ruling my mind, right? It'll ruin a moment or rule a moment, but not the day. I don't wake up like, I don't wake up with it and go to sleep with it. So I'm grateful for that, but it's still a good reminder. Yeah. Like, oh man, why do I feel that way? Yeah. I was a jerk. Right. So I guess it also goes to this question is, how does seeing yourself as a beloved child of God help you look honestly at your life?
How does it?
How does seeing yourself as a beloved child of God help you look honestly at your life?
So here's the thing for me is, I don't know if you know anybody's watching that has kids or is there, but for me, when I say that from a beloved child of God, I can look at it and really relate with it because of my own children.
Yeah.
Right. I know how much I love them unconditionally. Even in the midst of, two of them are grounded right now, right? For different reasons, right?
Right.
But
Yeah,
one's
yeah.
around disrespect, one's around poor choices,
Right.
right? My daughter's not grounded right now. Sitting over here, right? But maybe we'll ground her this evening. Who knows? But in that doesn't change my view.
Yeah.
Does not change my love. Does not
Right.
change my hopes and dreams and aspirations for them.
Right.
And really, when maybe I'm just slow, I don't know. But my true belief and my true view of being a child of God, like, my Father in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Rather than a prayer to pray it, but to believe relationally tied
live
there.
it. Yeah.
It's like, man, how could that be with everything that I've done, everything I think, all my imperfection? And I'm looking at it, it's like, man, I still love my kids just as much, if not more, day in, day out.
Right.
As the relationship grows.
Yeah.
And I still want everything and more for them. So it helps me get through a day to know that I can relate, because I know that my love for my children are not wavering. And I still got pride and all these things that, man, God ain't got any of that.
Right.
He's
Right.
He gonna have it. So if I can feel that way when it hurts my pride, when it makes me angry, when it strikes on an imperfection or something that I've got guilt, shame that I've had to deal with, and I can still look that way, then I know my Father in heaven, man, is if he's got a pure view of me, then it lets me know that, man, there's nothing I've done or nothing I could do that's gonna it's not an excuse to go out and do something stupid. Right. But it's a true belief that, man, I am a child of God.
Yeah.
I'm loved.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I love the way, when Jesus' disciples, they ask him like a specific question. They don't do this a lot, but one of the questions they asked was, teach us how to pray. And the first thing he does is reference the relationship between us and God in a child and father relationship, a real familial, like we're together. I'm for you. Yeah. Like you're for your kids, right? Yeah. I mean, immediately the first thing is our Father, and we kind of like go through that, and but
it's our
Father. Yeah. So it's like, so that's a great, 2,000 years ago, he's knocking on something that's telling you like, look, you don't have to live this, it's like if you think you're a duck, you're going to quack like a duck. Yeah. So if you start actually believing that God is for you, God loves you, then you react in the right way, right?
Think about it. He wants something for us,
right?
Not from us.
Yeah.
And that's a big, that's a lot of folks think there's like, man, I got to do this, and he wants all this. Man, he wants it for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different belief, different view.
Yeah, he doesn't love you if you change. He loves you so that you can change. Yeah. All right, and now let's get into those nuts and bolts here. How much reaction time do you need to admit when you are wrong? And how has that time shortened over the years? So I'm really interested in like, and you kind of go back to your memory banks, and like what's the difference in this reaction time,
So it depends. I'm man enough to say it depends. Like if it's some of the hardest things for me still to get are those that are closest to me. Like, let's take my wife, for example, right? Yeah. Because it gets to it, I'm unguarded with her. Yeah. On my pride and ego and emotion, right? So my feelings are hurt easier there. My pride's hurt easier there. Yeah. You pull it outside of that setting because early in recovery, we weren't together. So if you look at just the way I reacted, so outside of my relationship with my wife, I'm on principle driven. Like, you tell me you're going to do something, you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. If you don't, I'm going to hold you accountable to it. Mm-hmm. Before I blow a top and just completely just, just really get aggressive over it, man, I generally got to be pretty worked up. I would say other than that is when I'm completely off guard and taken by it. So I've let my guard down with somebody, let somebody in, and it hits an emotional curve, like where I've been hurt, right? Yeah. Not just mad, ticked off that someone would do that, but it's like, man, how could he do that to me? Or how could she do that because I'd given this, or this? Right. Those I still, struggle around just a little bit to, man, I shouldn't have acted that way. Right. But the ones that are the toughest really for me to get to that point are the ones that are where it's a little bit more emotional or
connection there.
That more connection.
Yeah.
The others, you know, it's a brother in one of the houses here, man. I don't let it fester. So
right.
I'm going to go ahead and get to it. Even now, I'm going to have an uncomfortable conversation once I know that emotion is out of it, right?
Right.
And we can sit here and have a real conversation, and I can express, man, this is why I'm mad.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've said. Maybe we could have said it different, but you know where I'm at. Then it just keeps the slate clean and have a conversation and move on and not harbor it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's still a challenge, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm you know, especially when it gets down into the flesh and pride and ego, man, it's
right.
Oof.
Well, I heard somewhere that anytime you're feeling offended, that's your flesh, or it's your false self, that's your lower self, that's your shadow, all these different words we have. Everyone will use it, but that's what is feeling offended, because the part of you that's in God, right, your higher self, your divine self, whatever that word is you call it, that can't be offended, right. Because it's connected with life itself. Yeah. So anytime we feel that offense, which I think it makes sense, you know, anytime I feel offended, that's a great time for me to go, wait a minute. Because
it's not from him.
Yeah,
right?
it's not from him.
It's just like that conversation we had like a month ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, hey, anxiety, that's not, why are you worried? That's not from him.
Right.
When you forget sometimes, right?
Yeah,
it's like, well, I know, but I feel this, but why do I feel, you know,
right.
Why do I feel it? Right.
Yeah.
And that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this step is a great reminder to continue. And I think it leads great to the next couple steps. And so, I think we've kind of covered it, unless there's anything else or anything you'd want to say to somebody who's got this far and they're on the outskirts and they want to come in and try this way of life. What words would you have for them?
So here's what I would say to you is, at the end of the day, it is really, really, really simple. It does not mean that it's easy, right? Mm-hmm. But it's simple. It's 24 hours at a time, right?
Yeah.
I'm 23 and a half years, but like I told you, I'm like about 20 hours in, you know, maybe 18 hours, 19 hours in today, right? So a day at a time, right? Surrounded by the right community. Yeah. True accountability, true transparency, right? Yeah. And you can get through it. And with that, because if within that community, man, the people that are living it right are going to be some a little bit ahead of you, some a little behind you. Right. And stay in the early days, man, just stay in the center of the herd. You don't need to be seen on the outside. Stay in the center. That's good, yeah. And when you there's plenty of time to go out and run and get out of the middle, but man, for the meanwhile, just stay in the middle, because I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I never think anymore like I used to in early days, like, man, why me? Man, I can't go here. Man, I go anywhere and do anything I want to do. Yeah. I just do it without drugs and alcohol anymore. Right. Right. So it's worth a fight. It's awesome. You get to have great friendships, right? Yeah. That actually have meaning and depth. Right. Right. That you can call when you know you need something. So I'm grateful, man. I'm truly grateful for it. Yeah. So awesome. All right. So that's the Most High Show. If you need help or want to learn more, you can go to themosthighshow.com. We got a phone number up there. If you need to get, someone who needs somewhere to go, sober living community, someone who's getting out of a recovery place, or just needs help. If you go to themosthighshow.com, you can reach us there. And then also we can go to Vision Warriors. You can go to waron, waron.org, waron.org. Yeah. All right, man. Thanks, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.